Listen on radio, smart speakers, and our free mobile app, WSKO Syracuse. A Cumulus media station, the voice of the Central New York sports fan. The Score, 1260. Welcome to your home for local sports in Syracuse. Outside the Box Score with Mark Rowlands starts right now.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. It's good to be back. Took the past couple of weeks off. I took a little trip out to Cooperstown 2 weeks ago. I will get into all the details of that over the course of the show today. And then last week, my usual co-host Josh Boheim and I played in a little golf tournament out here in Syracuse, a four-man scramble with a couple of college buddies of ours. We did not win, I will say. But we played better than that group has ever played in a scramble before. Granted, fairly easy course, but we were 6 or 7 under, which for that group, thrilled with. Absolutely thrilled with that result. Jim says it's a moral victory. Absolutely a moral victory. This group has struggled to break par in every single scramble we've played. Excuse me, we've played in. So the fact that we were either 6 or 7, I don't remember, either 6 or 7 under, huge for us. Braylon Noble's here as well. Braylon, how we doing?
Good. How you doing, Mark?
Good. What were you about to say?
I said big time win.
Oh, big time moral victory for the boys. We were thrilled. And we celebrated like we had won. I'll say that much. A lot of stuff to talk about. Like I said, we got big catch-up show. Haven't been here in a couple weeks. I do want to start the show. On a little bit of a downer, because within the past week or so, the sports world lost an absolute icon in Bill Walton. And I know for a lot of people, and a lot of Syracuse fans were recently introduced to Bill Walton last year when Syracuse was in the Maui Invitational and Walton was calling Syracuse games. He always stayed on the West Coast, really, called a lot of Pac-12, and Syracuse very rarely plays on the West Coast, which will happen more now with the additions of Southern Cal and Cal to the ACC, but that's beside the point. I saw a lot of talk on Syracuse basketball Twitter about how they were watching the game on mute. These are not college basketball fans. If you didn't love Bill Walton, in my opinion, you don't love college basketball. He was my favorite color commentator to listen to for college basketball. Now, are there many more knowledgeable guys out there? Probably. I'm not going to say he was the smartest and the most stat heavy and even had the best feel for the game. But there's something about that guy that you hang on every word he's saying because you never know where the story's going to go.
And I think one of the things is because he talked so like calm. It was
Yeah.
always like just in like a really like smooth delivery. It was never he's like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that. It was like, well, let me tell you.
He's the definition of a gentle giant because he was huge. He was like 6'11", and he was just a big teddy bear. And he conveyed that in his broadcast. I remember one time, and I listen to a lot of Bill Walton. He's a big part of why I watch so much Pac-12 basketball after dark, because I was like, okay, I can watch Bill Walton. I remember one time, just randomly, he told a story about how he ended up in Alaska, and he wasn't sure how he got there. What? Bill, I need you to elaborate. And it was just, it started with me following the Grateful Dead. I love the Grateful Dead, and all of a sudden I said to myself, I need to go to Alaska. And then about a week later, here I am, middle of Alaska, no one around me. I'm not even sure how I got there or how I got out. And that was it. He just called it at that. Unbelievable. Unbelievable work by Bill Walton. And he transcended basketball. It wasn't just about basketball with Bill Walton. I mentioned his love for the Grateful Dead, and I'm no Deadhead. I don't dislike the Grateful Dead. They've just never been one of my favorites. But if I'm hanging out with people and the Dead come on, I'm not going to say, oh, you got to turn that junk off,
Mm.
This man saw the Grateful Dead over 1,000 times in concert.
Mm.
That's a true number. Over 1,000. The band I've seen the most is Dropkick Murphys. And I go to a lot of live music. And I'm just saying, like, national acts. Local acts, I've seen Los Blancos probably 15 times. I've seen some of these, upwards of 20 times for some of these local acts because they play Blues Fest. I see them in bars, yada, yada, yada. But national acts, Dropkick Murphys are the band I've seen the most. I've seen them 7 times. It's going to be 8 coming up in September. I couldn't imagine going to 1,000 Dropkick Murphys shows. This is a band I adore. One of my favorite bands. I listen to them all the time. I've listened to probably every song of theirs multiple times. They're one of those bands I just sit and I listen to everything all the way through. And I love them. You couldn't pay me enough money to see them 1,000 times in concert. He was just an unreal human being. And I'm going to briefly tell a story. And it's not really my story to tell, but in case people out there don't listen to the Man-Child Show with Boy Green, they have a great story about Bill Walton that I'll tell, like I said, briefly right now, since it's not really my story, but I've heard it from Jim Lurch a number of times, including the other night. We were just talking about this. And so Bud Poliquin, the old co-host of the Man-Child Show, went back when it was Bud and the Man-Child, had a relationship with Walton because Bud used to work out in San Diego covering the Clippers when Walton was on the San Diego Clippers. And Walton's San Diego guy, Bud spent a lot of time in San Diego. They had built a working relationship with each other. I'd say quite a good working relationship with each other. And so they had scheduled to get Bill Walton on the show. Keep in mind, this happened, excuse me, this story I'm about to tell has happened twice. Almost exactly the same. So they scheduled Bill Walton to come on the show. And they had a producer at the time whose name escapes me, but he was, he would screen all the calls and all this stuff. And they get a phone call. And the man doesn't introduce himself. He just says, "Hello, is Bud there?" And the producer naturally says, "Well, yes, he's here. He's on the air right now." And the person on the other end of the phone says, "Okay, I'll call back later." So show comes around. They never hear from Walton, as far as they know. Like, oh, well, we thought Bill Walton was going to call in, but I guess he never called in. And afterwards, the producer says, "Yeah, we got this call, like, when you guys were on the air. All he said was, 'Is Bud there?'" Rich is like, "Huh?" And he goes, "Yeah, I told him, well, Bud's on the air right now. And he said he would call back later, and then he never called back." Rich is like, "Do you have, like, a deep, sort of slow-talking voice?" Guy goes, "Yeah, he did." He goes, "Are you sure it wasn't Bill Walton?" And he said, "You know what? No, I'm not sure that it wasn't Bill Walton. It actually kind of sounded like Bill Walton." He didn't even say, "Hi, it's Bill Walton." He just said, "Is Bud there?" And this is a man in Bill Walton who obviously worked in media forever, has done plenty of interviews on radio shows, is a lauded color commentator. He knows how this business works. "Is Bud there?" That's all he said. Just an enigma of a human being and someone that I will miss dearly. And I will say, and we're going to take a time out right after this, I will say, he's a man that couldn't live in a world without the Pac-12. Once the Pac-12 died, so did Bill Walton. And that's something that, in a strange way, is quite poetic because he lived, breathed, and ate the Pac-12. That was what his entire life was about, outside of the Grateful Dead, was Pac-12 sports. And sadly, the Pac-12 is no longer with us. It's so weird to say the Power 4 conferences now. Mm-hmm. And it is kind of poetic that he just couldn't live in a world without the conference that he grew up in. Obviously, won national championships at UCLA under John Wooden and spent his broadcasting life dedicated to the Pac-12. It's fitting, is all I'll say. We're going to take a timeout. We'll be right back here on Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands. For the best local beer in Central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Cazenovia location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score.
Trucks.
Also, was that an excuse just for me to do my kind of okay Bill Walton impression? Yes, it was. I don't have a lot of impressions, but Walton's one of them. Jim, so don't call into the show today and just ask for Mark. It's just a wild thing to say. Like, producer answers the phone, and I'm assuming says, "Man-child show, what's your name, where are you calling from?" Which has been the protocol forever with that show. Or Bud and the Man-child, what's her name, where are you calling from? He just goes, "Is Bud there? Who are you?" Also, that's on the producer for not saying, "Wait, who are you? Is this Bill Walton?"
But then would he have believed it was actually Bill Walton? Right, Bill Walton, get the hell out of here.
Well, I'm assuming the producer knew that Bill Walton was supposed to be going on the show that day. But that happened twice. It happened one day with Bud and the Man-child. It happened another time where Mike Lissette, who, shout out Mike Lissette, he's much bigger now. Mike Lissette was filling in for the Man-child, and so it was Bud and Mike Lissette, and they were trying to get Walton on again, and it happened again. The same thing. If any of you on Twitter, Mike Lissette posted the story on Twitter the day Bill Walton died, and it's very long, very well written. I would recommend looking that up if you follow Mike. Yeah, it was a very nice tribute to Walton. Like I said, my favorite color commentator for basketball. He was just so funny. I remember one time I got to tell this story quickly. I was doing a game in Oswego with a buddy of mine on color commentary, and who wasn't really a broadcaster. We just needed someone to fill in. And my dad texted me and said, "Have Zach go on some Bill Walton style tirade." And Oswego was up like 25. And so my buddy Zach told a very long story about a walk he went on in the Adirondacks that never happened. And we're back. Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. I just told a couple of quick Bill Walton stories during the break. So if you want to hear what we talk about during the breaks, feel free to check out our YouTube and Twitch streams that happen every single week. You can check out the Score 1260 YouTube channel, or you can go on twitch.tv/marker_box, which is also my Twitter username, marker_box. Just go on Twitch or YouTube. You can see a video feed of the show. We've got a camera set up in here that I'm waving to right now. You can see our somewhat beautiful faces. I won't say that about myself, but see our beautiful faces and listen to us during the breaks. And we've also got a Twitch chat and YouTube chat going as well if you want to interact with us on there. If not, you can always call in 315-671-1260. That's 315-671-1260. Call during the break so I can screen your call and we can get you on the show that way as well. Want to tell a little story about when I was in Cooperstown a couple weeks ago. Cooperstown is one of my favorite places on earth. I love it. I go a couple times a year with my father. We love taking weekend trips down there. I've taken day trips down there before. It is a beautiful little town, even if you're not like a massive baseball fan, which obviously I am. It's my preferred sport, but it is an absolutely gorgeous town, and I highly recommend any sports fan visit. But I was there for a very special weekend. Every year at Doubleday Field, they do something called the Hall of Fame Classic, which is a game that they play at Doubleday. They have a home run derby beforehand, and it usually, well, it always entails former major leaguers just getting together. Usually it's one representing each team, and they just play a game, and it's a lot of fun. This year, they did something very special. They did what was called the East-West Classic, which is what they used to call the Negro League All-Star Game. And it was a celebration of the Negro Leagues. It was a celebration of black baseball. There was a new black baseball exhibit opened in the Baseball Hall of Fame, new statue of Henry Aaron that they unveiled, and they played this game. And I'm someone that I love the history of the Negro Leagues. I think it's incredibly important to the history of baseball and doesn't get talked about nearly enough a lot of the time. And there's more about that we'll talk about in just a second with some new statistics. But this was, and I'm going to be like, I've been to Cooperstown for 4 induction ceremonies, 3 Hall of Fame classics. I was there for the anniversary of my favorite Simpsons episode, Homer at the Bat, with Steve Sachs and Ozzie Smith and all these guys there. This was the coolest weekend I've ever been to in Cooperstown. The vibe around the entire town was so cool. And the rosters that they had for these games were unbelievable. I mean, we're talking Ryan Howard, BJ and Justin Upton, Edwin Jackson, Adam Jones, Russell Martin, David Price, Prince Fielder, Curtis Granderson, Matt Kemp. These are guys that not only were all-stars. CC Sabathia was there, but not just all-stars. Ryan Howard won an MVP. David Price won a Cy Young. These are really, really great former players. Dexter Fowler, World Series champion. And to see them all on the field in these old wool uniforms, because they wore authentic uniforms, on like an 80-degree sunny day in Cooperstown, New York, all sweating their butts off, but having so much fun. It was so cool to be there for that. And the appreciation that they all showed, and I actually haven't watched it yet. There was I believe, a half an hour or an hour special that aired on MLB Network about this game. Harold Reynolds, who's a MLB Network personality, was there, and they had cameras on him, and he was doing interviews and stuff during the game. It was just so cool. Oh, I forgot to mention, Little League World Series legend Monet Davis was in this game.
She played?
Yeah. She didn't pitch, which I was a little upset about, but also she probably would have gotten shelled, so that's probably a good thing. But yeah, she played center field for a few innings, and she took it at bat against, I forget who was pitching. I want to say it was Tyson Ross was pitching, who's former starting pitcher for the San Diego Padres, who had some really good years. I want to say it was Tyson Ross that was pitching, and she took it at bat. It's like, holy crap, Monet Davis is facing a major league pitcher. She struck out, but it was cool to see. She worked a full count. She hit a couple foul balls. Like, it was a really cool thing to see, and just bringing all these guys together. And especially, like, some of these guys are some of my favorite. I mean, Adam Jones, I have a framed picture of him robbing Manny Machado of a home run in the WBC up above my bed. Like, he's one of my favorite players I ever got to watch. Curtis Granderson's a fan favorite. Prince Fielder, when he was healthy, was incredible for both the Brewers and the Tigers, later the Rangers. And it was awesome. And then going into the Hall of Fame on Sunday, the day after, and seeing the new Hank Aaron statue, which is right when you walk into the Hall of Fame. It's one of the first things you see once you enter the actual gates, not just walk in the door, but once you go through the gates and get to the stairs, one of the first things you see is the statue of Hank Aaron decked out in a Braves uniform with an awesome quote right next to it. And then you go upstairs and you see the new exhibit. And it's not only about the new exhibit's not only about the Negro Leagues, but black players in baseball today, which there aren't nearly enough of. All these guys I mentioned are superstars or were at some point, and the number of African American superstars right now in Major League Baseball is dangerously low. And I think that's a shame, because you look at the best players in the history of baseball: Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr., Frank Robinson. They're all African American.
Black players.
All black players. And you would think, especially for like kids my age and a little older than me, who, in like your age, grew up watching Ken Griffey Jr., one of my favorite players of all time. And granted, I saw Cincinnati Ken Griffey Jr. I didn't even see Seattle Ken Griffey, who was as electric as a baseball player ever was. But even watching Cincinnati Ken Griffey, where he was kind of a shell of his former self, I fell in love with the swing, the backwards head. He was so cool. And he was the guy that everyone wanted to be like. I think it's just a shame that, they are struggling to find African-American talent right now.
I think it's just the thing, like, I don't know. When I was little, I was drawn to basketball and football. Like, that was what I was drawn to.
Sure.
Like, I'm not saying baseball is terrible. It could be because it's the length of the game.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. It was just like, for me, it was like basketball and football. That's what I saw. I want to be a basketball player. I want to be a football player. Baseball didn't get to me like that. Like, now I'll look at it like here and there.
Yeah.
But it's just, I don't know what it is really.
Well, I think part of it is, it's like, this is where, a certain divide may come in. Basketball and football does a much better job marketing their African-American players. And there's a lot more of them, percentage-wise, than there are in Major League Baseball. I think Major League Baseball is like 7% black right now, which is far too low. It's just far too low. And I know that Major League Baseball is partnering with a lot of organizations to try to increase that number, and they're making really good strides. And I think this weekend was a great thing for that. The amount of like young black kids that I saw at this game really made me happy. That's like, okay, these kids, and they're in uniforms, and they're wearing like the jerseys of some of the guys on the field, stuff like that. That gave me hope that the future is bright. And I hope it is, because it is a problem right now. And I hope it gets a lot better soon. It is a real issue. And while we're on this, I do want to bring up, there was a recent development. It was actually a few days after this. This had nothing to do with the entire weekend. It's just kind of one of those things they just so happen to coincide, where it was announced that Negro League statistics are now counted in the official Major League Baseball statistics rankings.
Mm.
And that means that Josh Gibson, who is arguably, I mean, you can say arguably the greatest baseball player of all time, even though a lot of people haven't heard of him, is now the all-time leader in batting average, according to Major League Baseball. 376 career average for Josh Gibson. And I haven't seen much opposition to this, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
But I just have to say, this is so overdue. We know exactly how good the talent level was in the Negro Leagues because of obviously the guys that we saw that came to the major leagues after playing in the Negro Leagues. It wasn't just Jackie Robinson. It was guys well after Jackie Robinson. Ernie Banks, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Roy Campanella, Larry Doby, Elston Howard, Minnie Mignoso, Don Newcomb. The list goes on of guys, Monty Irvin, of guys that were stars in the Negro Leagues and then made the transition to the major leagues and were all-stars, MVPs, Hall of Famers. All the guys I just listed are in the Hall of Fame except Don Newcomb, which I think is a shame. And so I think it's great that we're finally including these statistics in the annals of Major League Baseball. Because, yes, we got to see Satchel Paige when he was a 50-year-old man, still throwing 95 or whatever, because he was an insane human being. But prime Satchel Paige, we were robbed of. Josh Gibson, Buck Leonard, Buck O'Neill, Cool Papa Bell, Moses Fleetwood Walker, Joe Fowler, or Bud Fowler, excuse me, Bud Fowler. All these guys we were robbed of seeing play at the highest level. And I think it's about damn time that they were included because that talent was just as good, if not higher, than what we were seeing in the major leagues at that time. So good on Major League Baseball for including these statistics because it's been a long time coming. And I've always been a huge proponent of Negro League Baseball history, and I'm glad that it's finally being included in Major League Baseball history, which is where it should have been for years prior to this. Take a timeout. We'll be right back here on Outside the Box Score. If you're a fan of local craft beer, the only place you need to go is Myers Creek Brewing Company with 16 brews on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Myers Creek has the best selection of locally brewed libations in all of Central New York. Want a nice hazy IPA? The Velvet Fog is a must-try. More of a traditional Pilsner, how about the Floatin' on By? And for you sour drinkers, the It Takes Blue to Mango. So crack open a cold one with the official beer of Outside the Box Score, Myers Creek.
This is Joe.
Yeah, Josh is once again playing in a golf tournament. And then next week, guess what? Another golf tournament. So Josh is going to have a month off. I think I'm going to save that one. That was pretty good. Oh, yeah. What was that new 4-star we got? Was it Sadiq White? Basketball player? Yeah.
Like it,
Yeah. I'm going to talk a little bit of recruiting.
When's the last time Syracuse has been ranked? It has to be like what, like
Oh.
6 years now, 7.
That's a great question. For basketball?
For basketball.
Wow. That's a great question. When was the last time we were ranked? It's been at least 5, if not 6 or 7.
And then who was on that team?
This is when we need Steve from North Syracuse. I'm gonna make a call. I'm gonna make a call out to Steve from North Syracuse when we come back.
Like the only thing that comes to my mind about them being ranked is when they were number 1, when they had like Coleman and whoever else.
Yeah,
that was the last time I remember.
And that was 2013, I think.
I'm sure they had to be ranked.
They must have been. And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. I've got a call to action right now. Steve from North Syracuse, if you're out there listening, we need you to call in and answer this question. When was the last time Syracuse was ranked in basketball? We want to say it's been like between 5 and 7 years.
Yeah, might have been more than that.
But we really don't remember. So, Steve, if you're out there listening, call in, because I know you'll know this. Steve from North Syracuse is the official Syracuse sports historian of the Score 1260 and probably other stations. I don't know. I don't listen to them. I only listen to the Score 1260, as you should as well. But he will know this. And so if he's out there listening, I want Steve to call in. I'm going to keep an eye on that phone line, 315-671-1260, and hope that Steve calls in because I need to know. Could I just look it up? Probably. But it's also been a while since I've heard from Steve. Do want to talk a little bit of recruiting on both the basketball and football side of things. New biggest recruit for the basketball team, Sadiq White, 4-star, just committed on May 29th verbally. He verbally committed. Like I said, he's a 4-star on Rivals, 4-star pretty much everywhere you'll look. 6'8" power forward, and I'm starting to think he would pair very nicely with Kyan Anthony.
Maybe.
I think those two, and I know they're buddies. I know they know each other because Anthony, when Sadiq committed, Anthony posted something on his Instagram story about it. With like a couple eye emojis. And we love to get in some social media deep dives on this show. So come on, Kyan. Just do it. We all know you want to be an Orange. Mm-hmm. It just fits. Come here, play with Sadiq, play with Donnie Freeman, who hopefully will be here longer than 1 year. I doubt it. Who will hopefully be here longer than 1 year. The three of them, go win a national championship. Just do it. Just be like your father. Come in, first year, national championship. All right. We're good. Come on. This is my official plea to Kyan Anthony. And someone I want to mention that just got offered yesterday on the football side. His name is Oakley Keegan. Have you heard about this kid?
I feel like we've talked about him before.
We have. He's from Liverpool High School. He's currently listed as a wide receiver. He is 6'7".
Oh, wow.
And by the way, he's a sophomore.
Oh, wow.
I'm just afraid that this dude's going to grow another 4 inches and be too tall to play football. And in that case, throw him down low. Put him at the center position because I want him there too. I don't even know if he plays basketball. If he doesn't, that's a problem. You're 6'7" and a sophomore. Yeah, the main thing I'm worried about him is he's just going to grow more. And shout out to a buddy of mine, Tony Lankowitz, who's the biggest Notre Dame fan in the world. This guy lives in Syracuse, New York, right?
Mhm.
He's a season ticket holder for Notre Dame football. He has a place in South Bend. He has a condo that he goes down to and is a season ticket holder for Notre Dame football.
Mhm.
I don't know many guys, and I know a lot of Notre Dame fans. That's insane. He told me about Oakley like 2 weeks into his freshman year at Liverpool. He was like, and I think there's some connection there with his family or something like that.
Mm.
But he goes, Mark, you're gonna have to watch this kid. Like he's a freshman wide receiver. Why do you know? Why are you recommending? And at the time he was 6'4", I think. I think he's grown 3 inches since then. And so as soon as he said, "Yeah, you got to check this kid out," I said, "Okay." And next time Liverpool's on TV, I'll watch and see if there's a very tall wide receiver, and there was. Blown away by this kid. He's already got so many of the tools, the athleticism. The only problem is he's not very fast because he's 6'7", so that he's got to get his speed up a little bit. Could very easily see a transition to tight end. But this kid, and he just received an offer from Syracuse. Like I said, he's a sophomore. He just received an offer, but he looks like he's going to be the real deal. He does also have Clemson and Notre Dame camps to go to this summer. Like he just went to an SU camp, but he's going to Clemson and Notre Dame camps. His father, I believe, went to Clemson, and his mother went to Georgia. So if Georgia sneaks in there, don't be too surprised either. But this kid's going to be a stud. And it would be so nice to have one of these local stars actually go to Syracuse. I'm tired of losing these guys. I mean, I remember when Servassier Dennis, who, shout out Servassier, we went to like 4th grade together. Well, I was in 4th grade. He's a couple years younger than me. But we went to the same elementary school for a few years. I remember when he committed to Pitt. I was so mad. Like, this kid out of CBA who's going to be an absolute stud. He plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now. And he's a CBA kid that went to Pitt. We have a Division I school right here. Why are you sending these kids elsewhere? We should have always recruited more heavily in this area because there's a lot of talent that comes out of this area. It really is a good football town in terms of Division I talent. So hopefully we see this more and more because it's so fun to see all the guys committing and getting offers that really never would have happened before. I just went on the Juice Syracuse Rivals page. But shout out the Juice. I did some freelance work for them for the SU lacrosse NCAA tournament first round game. Just seeing 3-star, a bunch of 3 stars. Let's sort this by stars. This is just for the class of 2025. 2 4-stars, one of them being Luke Carney, the quarterback out of Texas, 6'2", 200. One of them being Charlandon Strange, which is an unbelievable name. 4-star out of Pennsylvania. And then everyone else is a 3-star recruit. There isn't a 2-star in sight, a 1-star in sight. 5 years ago, can you imagine if that was the case? And that's out of 19 commitments for the class of 2025. We look at the class of 2024, and we got 4 4-star recruits. You got 25 total commitments. There's a couple of, lower end recruits in there as well. But 4 4-stars, then so a ton of 3-stars, including King Joseph Edwards, who should be a 4-star probably. That seems low for him. I think he was a 4-star when he first committed.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's gone down. Just looking. Yeah, I think a couple of these guys were 4-stars when they first committed. Xavier Miles, the DT out of Jersey City, I think he was a 4-star at first. And he hasn't signed yet, but he's still a verbal commit. You can even look, he's starting to get guys for the class of 2026. We've got 3 guys for 2026 already. One's a 4-star, 2 3-stars. Fire me up, Fran Brown. This is what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
This is everything I needed out of and it's what we thought we were getting out of Dino Babers. This guy that was going to be the recruiting guru.
Mm-hmm.
We finally got that. We are currently on Rivals for 2025, 8th in recruiting.
Not bad.
Here are some of the teams behind us. Alabama, Auburn, Penn State, Georgia. They're behind us. When has Syracuse ever been able to say that they had a better recruiting class than those 4 schools? Never. That is the correct answer, Braylon. The answer is never. Grant, it's funny looking at this list. You got Notre Dame 1, makes sense. Ohio State, USC, Oklahoma, Clemson, LSU, Texas A&M. All the schools that you would expect to be in this conversation. Then it's Syracuse, Rutgers, Alabama. Where the hell Rutgers came from, I don't know. But Syracuse, Rutgers, Alabama. It's just a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
now we need some wins.
Now we need some wins.
Some wins.
But according to ESPN, the easiest schedule in the Power 4 this coming season.
Expanded playoff, too.
Expanded playoff. Easiest schedule in the Power 4. Elite recruiting. A quarterback that just won 11 games at Ohio State. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
But it's possible.
It's possible.
Pipe dream.
Is it? Is it even a pipe dream? Or is it just high expectations? Because a pipe dream would be saying last year's team was going to make the college football playoff. This team, I don't think it is a pipe dream. I think it's a high bar. And I'm not even saying that's the bar. I think the bar is 9 wins. And I think that's a perfectly fair bar to set. I think the bar is about 9 wins, which Vegas has them at 7 right now. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, I'd probably take the over. With, like I said, the easiest, not one of the easiest, not the third easiest, the easiest schedule in the Power 4. We play UConn this year. I don't think UConn's won a football game since 1972. It's just fun, man. I've never been this excited for Syracuse football. Never. I'm more excited about Syracuse than I am Oregon this year. I've been a bigger Oregon fan for the past decade than I have Syracuse. And I'm more excited for Syracuse. And I think they've got not just as good of a shot, but almost just as good of a shot as making the college football playoff as Oregon. That's really saying something.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. It's just a lot of fun. We got to take another time out. We'll be right back here on Outside the Box Score.
Our brand new state-of-the-art facility is now open on Hiawatha Boulevard. Yes, 959 Hiawatha Boulevard is home to McGuire.
Elijah Moore and Donnie Freeman are going to be so much fun to watch this year.
I just hope they can do something. Give us a good season.
Yeah, give us
because we've had some bad. This was actually the best one in like
a decade.
Yeah,
It was the first time we had won 20 games in the regular season in a decade. Syracuse.
Then everybody leaves.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a Syracuse basketball. I'm just curious to see, like, if there's like a current roster I can look at. Because how many guys are left? Here we go. Syracuse 2024 projected roster. This has Judah Mintz and Benny Williams on it. So this is not.
Did he get anywhere yet? Benny Williams?
Yeah, UCF.
Visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
For the best local beer in Central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Cazenovia location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score. And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the score 1260. I was just looking to see, just trying to find, here we go. I was trying to find a projected roster for the Syracuse basketball team next year, because there's been so much movement. And even this one is slightly out of date, even though this is from just a few months ago. So right now, we're looking at a team that is coming off a 20-win regular season, the first time in a decade that Syracuse has gotten to that mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 returning players out of the entire roster. That's J.J. Starling, Kyle Cuff, Chance Westry, who kind of counts because he didn't play a single minute last year due to injury, Chris Bell, Naheem McLeod. William Patterson's also on this list, but he just committed to High Point, so he's no longer with the roster. 5 returning players out of a team that won 20 games. Obviously, lost Judah, lost Justin Taylor, lost Benny Williams, and he was lost in the middle of the season anyway. Mm-hmm. It's going to be very interesting. But when you look at the names coming in, Elijah Moore, 4-star recruit, who's going to shoot the lights out. Dakota LeFew, highly touted transfer that came over. Donnie Freeman, 5-star recruit, highest recruit Syracuse has had in years. Eddie Lampkin, the big man out of Colorado, who everyone was worried about. Oh, he's not gonna stay. He's gonna withdraw his commitment. I said on this show, don't be scared. I said on the show I thought he was gonna stay. The rumblings were that he was gonna stay. It was just there was a weird thing going on behind the scenes. He stayed. What do you think, Braylon, the ceiling for this team is? With the guys that we know in Starling, Cuff, Bell, McLeod, the guys that we know what they can do, adding in these guys that we think we know what they can do, but we're not sure yet. What do you think the ceiling for this Syracuse team is?
I think if they can win enough games and get into the tournament, I would say ceiling would be round of 32.
So you think this team can win a tournament game?
One.
That's fair. My only, I don't even want to say pushback. My only thing is, if we know anything about Syracuse basketball, it's, let's say they make the tournament as a 10 seed, it's automatic Sweet 16. Automatic.
Yeah.
If there's anything we know about Syracuse basketball is they love being a double-digit seed in the tournament. So are you saying like, so what, all right, if that's the ceiling, what are your expectations?
Expectations?
Do you expect this team to be a tournament team?
No.
No.
Not. I said the ceiling would be that.
Yeah.
The floor is probably like a terrible season, like 12 wins.
You think the floor is that low?
Because just in like what they've looked like and the
Mm-hmm.
fact that they were better this year than they have been in the past and they lost everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got to get the system right. You got to get all these players to play well together. There's all those factors into it. And I just see like either going decent or not at all.
Do you think this is a more talented roster than last year's?
Close, but no.
Really? That's interesting. So
not until I see it. Now, if they come out and they show me something, I'll be like, yeah, I was wrong. But
yeah, of course.
I
but
think where they ended the year,
mm-hmm.
how they were playing, and then losing like the guys that would have got better, like Copeland, Brown,
Mm-hmm.
those players, like that's where I think the problem is.
Interesting. Okay. I don't hate your opinion here. Like, I think it's a very, very fair opinion to have because there are a lot of unknowns on this team. That's most of the team are unknowns. But just going based off what I've seen on tape and, what I know, which there's a lot of people out there that watch more tape on these guys than me. Mm-hmm. And I fully admit that. But the tape I've seen on guys like Moore, LeFew, Freeman, what I saw out of Eddie Lampkin at Colorado last year, can't really say I watched much Dakota LeFew. At what school did he come from again? It's like High Point or something.
I think I'm wrong.
I'm gonna look that up because I can't think of it.
North Dakota or something like that?
No, it was Mount St. Mary's. Mount St. Mary's. Because we also hired the coach from Mount St. Mary's. I can't say I watched much Mount St. Mary's basketball last year. But I think with improvement from J.J. Starling, which we saw over the course of the season, that jump shot got better. Kyle Cuff's a good defender. We can finally see Chance Westry. Mm-hmm. Elijah Moore is an elite three-point shooter. And I know we've said that before. We said that with Joe Girard. We said that with Buddy Boeheim. Buddy Boeheim was an elite three-point. Both of them were very good three-point shooters. But I love what I've seen out of him. He's been playing very well this summer, too. He's been playing in a lot of different, camps, AAU, all that sort of stuff. He's been playing great. Donnie Freeman, I think, is going to be a monster. I love what I've seen out of him. And I also like that him and Elijah Moore are playing a lot together. They've played in a lot of the same things and usually on the same team. And I think that's really beneficial that they're building even more chemistry just by playing together over the summer. And Lampkin is a guy that we saw perform on the biggest stage. I mean, Colorado was a tournament team. And we saw him perform well in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I think he had 20 points and 8 rebounds or something in that game. I think this roster, I do think absolute ceiling is like the Sweet 16. But I think the floor is, the absolute floor is 500. And I think they'll be better than that. My expectation is this team is knocking on the door of the NCAA tournament. And I don't mean like last year where it's like, are we on the bubble? Are we not? It's firmly, okay, if they don't make the tournament, they're one of the first 4 out. And it's some malarkey for why they didn't make it. Mm-hmm. But I think this, in my heart of hearts, I think it's a tournament team. I think the talent level is even higher this year. And I know Judah hurts to lose, and Malik and Quadir. It hurts to lose all of those guys, for sure. I think Dakota LeFew, based on what I've heard, is going to sort of step into that Copeland role be the guy that dishes all over the place. He'll get boards. He can score when you need him to. I think having Lampkin, a true center, down low is going to benefit this team a lot, and that's going to open up Donnie Freeman to really play the power forward position. And I think between Chris Bell and Elijah Moore, the three-point shooting is going to be a lot better than it was last year because you're going to have Starling taking a few less shots. You're going to have Mintz taking, obviously, no shots, but you're going to have a lot less shots coming from those guard positions, I think. And that's going to open up the floor for the rest of the guys. And that makes me happy because I said it last year. I pounded on the table saying Syracuse needed a true guard or a true point guard that can distribute the ball and get open shots for other players. That's what I'm hoping to see out of this team. Obviously, we don't know how it's going to go yet. We're a long ways away from Syracuse basketball season. But right now, I look at this roster and I'm thinking, that's pretty good. I like where we're at right now. So we'll see. But that was just a little breakdown of the current state of Syracuse men's basketball. One more timeout. We'll come back, wrap things up here on Outside the Box Score. If you're a fan of local craft beer, the only place you need to go is Myers Creek Brewing Company with 16 brews on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Myers Creek has the best selection of locally brewed libations in all of Central New York. Want a nice hazy IPA? The Velvet Fog is a must-try. More of a traditional Pilsner? How about the Floatin' on By? And for you sour drinkers, the It Takes Blue to Mango. So crack open a cold one with the official beer of Outside the Box Score, Myers Creek.
We're buying whatever you're selling at the DV Vehicle Buying Center.
I saw that you put Jonte Porter on here. These dumbass athletes betting on them, like betting on the sport they're playing, betting on their own team. Like there was a Marcano, the guy for the Padres recently, that just got a lifetime ban from Major League Baseball. It's even more impressive that he bet on, I think it was like 250 games and won 4% of them. These guys are always the worst gamblers of all time. You're not even, he wasn't even throwing games. He was just betting on them and being very bad at it. And I think that's very funny. I forgot to talk about the Belmont.
How do you even ban? Like, what is a lifetime ban?
You're done.
I mean, like, I can watch basketball at home.
Well, yeah. And we're back, wrapping up another fun-filled hour here on Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands. We were just talking during the break, Braylon and I, about these idiot athletes getting lifetime bans from sports for gambling on them, and they're all usually terrible gamblers. Jonte Porter, at least he was, like, throwing it, which obviously is the worst thing you can do, and he got caught, so he received a lifetime ban. But, like, this Marcano kid for San Diego who got a lifetime ban from baseball, who was betting on Pirates games last year when he was on the Pirates, but only hit 4% of his bets. So he's just the worst gambler of all time. And so he's losing money and got a lifetime ban. What are we doing? And you said, I thought what you just said at the end was great. It was, what does a lifetime ban even mean? I was like, well, it means you're done. And you said, well, I can watch basketball at home. and you're not wrong. I mean, he's still going to gamble on basketball, I'm assuming. I'm assuming Jonte Porter, who is originally who we were talking about, I'm assuming he's just a degenerate and is going to continue to gamble thousands of dollars on the NBA. He just can't do it on himself anymore. But yeah, I love that. Why? Like, I can still watch it, right? I mean, that was good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. Thank you to Braylon for being here. We'll be back next week, same time, same channel, 11 a.m. right here on the Score 1260. Peace.